Soup for President, Chapter 6. Hold still, I told Soup. Do you think it'll really work? Not if you squirm all over the place. The hair tickles my nose, said Soup. It was Monday morning and we were on our way to school. We had stopped to sit on the big gray rock beside the road that was halfway down Dugan's Hill. I was trying my darndest to make the hair stick to Soup's upper lip so that his face would match Mr. Capuzzo's, the man who was running for tax collector. I wondered why anybody would like to look like Mr. Capuzzo, but there's no reason, quite often, for some of Soup's requests. Is it sticking? Asked Soup. Sort of. What do you mean, sort of? Half is, and half isn't. You mean, said Soup, I have to walk around all day with only half a mustache? I don't guess you will, on account of when Miss Kelly takes one good look at you, off comes the other half. We should have used paste, said Soup, or glue. I couldn't find any. Good thing you had pancakes for breakfast, because the maple syrup is making your lip real sticky, but I got my doubts it'll work. Sure it'll work, said Soup. He licked his upper lip again to make sure the syrup wasn't too dry. At breakfast, when Ma wasn't looking, I smeared extra syrup all over my lips. I'll say this for good old Soup. He was never a doubter. Luther Wesley Vinson was a kid who knew that something could be done. And more, he got me to do it, and I generally caught most of the blame. Having a pal like Soup was a lot like going to sleep at night knowing that under your bed is a boa constrictor. You never knew when you'd be caught in the squeeze. It's working, I told Soup. He smiled, and the makeshift mustache smiled with him, and I wondered if Miss Kelly would smile. Then the more I thought about her, the more I knew she would. Miss Kelly smiled. Soup and I paraded into school that Monday morning, holding up a crudely cut poster of red, white, and blue, featuring the face of Mr. Capuzzo, which read, in adjusted lettering, Soup for tax collector. Mr. Capuzzo's mustache looked a bit more even than Soup's. It isn't easy to stick a fake mustache on a kid like Soup when all you have to work with is the half-dried remains of breakfast syrup, plus some hair sweepings off Mr. Petty's floor. Few campaign managers, I told myself, could have done any better. I didn't dare look at Norma Jean Bissell. If I did, that funny feeling would come creeping into my stomach. Soup was my best pal, but I had to confess to myself that Norma Jean was sort of my sweetheart, and that someday, if I was lucky, she would become Mrs. Robert Newton Peck. I often wondered which girl in the school would someday cast aside her name and become Mrs. Luther Wesley Vinson. In a way, I sort of hoped it would be Janice Riker. Miss Kelly, asked Soup, may we tack my poster up on the wall? Miss Kelly said we could, and she said that the whole situation was quite amusing. How ironic, she said, that at last a politician had put a mustache on a kid. Soup pushed tacks into the bottom corners of the poster, the two that were easy to reach, while I finally managed to get one tack into the top. The other tack wouldn't go in. Push, said Soup, holding me up in the air. I'm pushing. Push a little harder, grunted Soup. Miss Kelly brought her ruler, and with one gentle but firm tap, the head of the tack flattened against Soup's poster. As we backed away from our art, I discovered that we'd pasted the S a little lower than the OU and the P a little bit higher, which sort of made Soup, as well as poor Mr. Capuzzo, look like a couple of crooked politicians. Hooray for Soup! Yelled Raleigh. Boo! Yelled Janice, standing up on her bench. We want Bissell! Hip hip hooray for the Amazons! Down with the apes! Suddenly all the girls were chanting, We want Bissell! We want Bissell! We want Bissell! Norma Jean's face was turning pink, but I could see that she was happy. She was going after being president like a goose after a June bug. Everybody was cheering, even Miss Kelly, as she believed that we all have to get enthusiastic once in a while, because if we don't, we'd all become turnips. Is it true? Norma Jean asked me while everybody else was shouting his head off. Are you really Soup's campaign manager? Yep, I said. I was hoping, she hollered into my ear, that you'd vote for me. Well, I told her, even though Soup is my best pal, I sort of want to vote for you. Honest? Sure, by the way, who's your campaign manager? Janice. Janice Riker? She wanted the job, said Norma Jean, so I figured that if she was half as good at politics as she is at fullback, I might stand a chance to beat Soup. Enough, said Miss Kelly. All the apes and all the Amazons will now settle down, places everyone. We took our seats. Soup was ordered to remove his mustache. Now then, said Miss Kelly, the election is only a few days away, as it will soon be November. We shall all vote on the first Tuesday of the month. Which month? Asked Janice Riker. August, whispered Soup into my ear, and I was about to explode, just as Miss Kelly shot us each a warning stare. November, Miss Kelly sighed. And now we shall all take out our geography books so that we may resume the study of Canada, our friendly neighbor to the north. Can anybody tell us what the climate of Canada is like? Soup yelled out, Canada dry! Miss Kelly laughed. We all did. And then she ordered us to settle down and concentrate on Alberta and Manitoba, where there would be no football at noon recess and no election in November. So, in order not to disappoint Soup and Norma Jean, as well as Mr. Roosevelt and Mr. Langdon, not to mention Mr. Capuzzo, we settled down to search Canada for Louise and Jasper. It was fun when we all tried to say Banff. I got an idea. We all turned to look at Janice, who didn't get too many ideas, except those relating to football or a fist. And even Miss Kelly seemed to be curious. On election day, said Janice, we ought to have a football game. Girls against boys. Even sides, said Eddie Tacker. Miss Kelly, who knew more about football than she openly admitted, allowed as this might be a good idea, provided that she and Miss Bolin would serve as referee and umpire. And, added Miss Kelly, it might just be a festive way to christen our new football. When are we getting it? Soup asked. As soon, Miss Kelly explained, as we receive a unanimous vote from the school board. What does unanimous mean, Miss Kelly? It means that everyone has to be in favor of getting our school a new football, and of course the 6 pieces of lumber as well, so we can construct an H at both ends of the gridiron. Does that mean, I asked with my arm raised, that Mr. Cyrus McGrinley has to vote too? Miss Kelly nodded. We continue to pore over our geography books, unscrambling the mysteries of the Yukon and listening to Miss Kelly tell us about how much fun the Eskimo people had building an igloo and riding in a dog sled and eating blubber. Always after geography came arithmetic. Football, said Miss Kelly, can be very useful in learning our multiplication tables. As she spoke, our old beat-up football was under her arm. For example, numbers are used to call signals before Rob hikes the ball to Janice, correct? Yes, we all heartily agreed. So let's imagine we are to play football right here in the schoolroom. Each of you will have a turn at calling a signal. Rob, get ready to center the ball to me. To you? I asked Miss Kelly. Yes, to me. Ready, I said, prepared to snap the ball back between my legs to the teacher. 7, 9, 63, hike. I hiked the ball and Miss Kelly caught it. You see, she asked us, 7 times 9 is 63. My third number is the product of the first 2. But unless my third number is correct, whoever is the center does not pass the football. Are there any questions? No, we said, hardly able to stay seated on our benches. This sure was a lickety idea. Who goes first? Asked Norma Jean Bissell. Boys, said Soup. Girls, said Miss Kelly. 8, 6, 48, said Sue Terwilliger, and Alice Wilson hiked the ball to her. Sue dropped it, and everybody moaned. Good play, said Miss Kelly, because 6 times 8 is 48. We went through our multiplication tables using the biggest numbers we knew. Allie Tidwell hiked the football too high. Soup missed it and knocked over our globe, but not even Miss Kelly seemed to care. I got to hike the ball to Norma Jean, and then she hiked it to Raleigh McGraw. It sure was amazing how often we got the right answer. We even played the game again when we all went outdoors at recess at noon. 6, 9, 41, yelled Janice.